Well, I haven't been putting music up for a while, and the reason why is because I had COVID for some time, and it just kind of hung on for a long time, and I was not really feeling up to singing at all. And I may start doing it a bit more in the coming weeks. It just takes one day where I just feel really up to it and just singing a lot of songs perpetually. And I just haven't felt like it for a while. One of the things that has been sucking down a lot of my time is a program that I've been playing with called WOMBO for the iPad. And then I later learned that there were other programs that do something similar to that elsewhere. There's something called Stable Diffusion, and there's some website called Disco Diffusion. And what these programs do is you basically are telling an AI what you want to see a picture of. And the AI has, through deep learning, after them, after the programmers have given this neural net all this photographic material to look at, the AI has developed the capacity to be able to, through them working with it, um, it able to take words and turn those into pictures or to construct concepts of what it is that you might be wanting to see. And it actually paints a picture from the sentence, which is just amazing until you work with it for a while and then you realize there are downsides to it. That there are things that it won't understand, and unless somebody works with trying to, and the way this works is you're basically telling the AI what doesn't work and what does work as far as visually. Whenever you send some words in, and it gives the result, you can either say that it's correct or incorrect. And as far as I know about deep learning with AI, that's all it needs. You don't need to give it any explanation. You just need to say it doesn't work or does work, but you have to see lots and lots of content of what it generates as a result of the input lines you stick. And the more people, probably this is probably the reason why lots of people um, are connected to a computer, a cloud computer elsewhere. Cloud computer is just a bunch of computer nodes that are connected to each other, and they'll have a program on them, and that program will distribute its computations across those computers. And you'll be using an interface to that cloud computing platform, and that's what these AIs are. Is because no one computer can do this accurately or act efficiently. It's better to have a whole farm, what are called a farm of computers or a cloud of computers, to do this. Um, that's where cloud computing came from. Originally, the idea of cloud computing is not the way the people in the marketers use it, and marketers are kind of stupid, but they try to make things easy for people to understand, and they will market. But since they're associated with salespeople will try to sell you anything. They'll try to sell the concept of an information server as being a cloud. That's not a cloud. A cloud computing system is a system that has a thing called called a it has something on it called a what's the name for it? Uh, oh, darn it, I forgot the name. But what it is a virtual. It's like a virtual working environment, It's like a computer on a computer. It's a simulated computer on a computer. They're called hypervisors. It's called a hypervisor, and what it is it's a simulated environment of a computer within the computer, and the computer doesn't permit the hypervisor to have direct access to the hardware underneath. Um, it it determines what it can or can't do, and the you'll throw in an operating system like Linux or Windows on top of that hypervisor, and then you put your applications inside of it, and then you freeze that, and or I mean, you freeze that into a thing called an image, and the image is loaded onto the hypervisor and executed. And as far as the programs and the operating system are concerned, it's it, they're they feel like they've been there for just a few seconds. They feel like they're as fresh as the day they were born. And so it's kind of like freezing clones of you know of an environment. If you could freeze people and then bring them back to life, that's kind of the idea. Is that you're not freezing people here. You're freezing an operating system, and like a computer, your Windows machine running your applications. You freeze it into an image, and then the image can be um, the image can be executed. And I want to stop this. I know it has something to do with the light, if the light, just the darkness and stuff like that. But the thing is that cloud computing is just really just an extension of this idea to a whole bunch of computers, and um, it's made it so that computing resources now of companies like Google and Amazon can be sold to anybody who needs those computing resources. Because some of the time, Google and Amazon are not doing anything with certain sets of computers they have in their place. So it's so much easier for them to put them on the cloud and use them when they need to use them. They'll use them for free, but when somebody else needs to use them, they charge. And they charge those people to have access to their computers. And as far as as the applications are concerned, they can't tell if they're on the cloud or if they're on your local machines. To them, it's all the same. And so that has opened up a whole bunch of possibilities for applications that run on iPads and iPhones, is that they can make use of high performance computing to do things that the cell phone or the iPad can't do itself. Uh, and so they're utilizing like hundreds of computers to create images that your iPhone couldn't even produce with artificial intelligence. And that's the way a lot of newer applications work these days. Alexa is an example. Whenever you talk to Alexa and you give her some information, when you ask her a question, the sound that you produce of you asking the question is sent off to Amazon, to their cloud system, to their Alexa audio processing cloud, and it tries to turn that sentence into something that it can use, and that's what determines what comes back. And so when you're talking to your puck, your dot, or whatever, Alexa, you're not talking to your cell phone or your iPad. You're talking, or I mean, you're not talking to the device and the puck. You're talking to their computer, their cloud computer, that is taking all your audio and trying to make sense of it, and it'll come back with a reply. It'll be delayed because it has to process that sound and make sense of it. But that's an example. Another is there's a program for the iPad called Frax, which is a fractal rendition program. The fractal rendering that occurs is done on your iPad, but if you want to create a high resolution poster of the fractal rendering from Frax, um, they send it to a cloud computer and they rendered the full high resolution version of um, that fractal pattern. And fractals are infinite, have infinite detail, and so depending on your computer will determine how much detail you can produce. And if you want a big old poster but you want it to be super detailed, it's going to take a while to process it, and you don't want your iPad to be doing that. So they send it to a cloud computing service to do, and then they will send, you can have them print it up and send it back to you, or send you the image as it stands, and then you can print it. But that's the idea with cloud computing, and that's the whole idea of what cloud computing is. And what cloud computing is not is storing things on a server and getting stuff back from a server. That's not cloud computing. That's old school client server applications. It's just that cloud computing has become this ambiguous term that they apply to everything. And so you're on your iPad and it says put it on the cloud, you're putting it into a storage place on a server. You're not putting it on a cloud computer. You might be putting it on a cloud computer, but I pretty much guarantee you you're not. You're just putting it into a little storage place at Apple, and then they can send it back to you from there. And the cloud idea is just to let you know that it's not going to be local, it's going to be remote. But that's not cloud computing. That's that may be cloud storage, but originally it's a simple concept. It's been around for a long time of having servers and clients. Your computer, your iPhone, your is a client, and that server, the cloud server, is a server. It's called a server. You don't go to another client. If you went to another client, then that client would be called a server. Anything you connect to is a server. Um, you can connect to other clients, but the relationship is of a client server. So you're connecting to their machine, and the stuff you do with it is your client to their server. And if they interact with you, then it's their client to your server. And what we usually call this is a peer to peer connection. And so servers are, the client is asking stuff of the server and the server's sending it over. That's the idea. And this just tends to get turned in to this idea of the cloud. And people, I guess, understand it much better because all these marketing people have skewed their understanding of this to mean this. And now we in the computer world have to use a really bad ambiguous term, um, and it's going to be harder for us to say, well, this is not cloud computing, because if you're trying to get money to support a cloud computing facility, and you're talking to some higher up guy who doesn't understand anything about computers but seems to think he understands something about the cloud, and you start talking cloud to him, then he's going to say, well, my nephew has got a cloud server. Why do you need to spend so much money to do what he can do on his cloud server for this cloud facility that you've got? And you can see where the disconnect would be there. That's the problem with language is that it can confuse people, and they don't realize that they're kind of being lied to, and that's the whole idea for marketing and sales, is to try to basically lie to the clients and um, present them something that seems advantageous so that they will spend money on it. And they've succeeded whenever they've gotten it across without saying anything that could be held up in a court of law as being lying. So what they're doing is they're they're flubbing it. They're pushing it to make it sound like it's something it's not. So cloud. I use Wombo. What I use Wombo for is to generate images, and I'll spend all my time doing that. And oh my goodness, anything you can imagine. Bunnies surfing, and I mean I'll show it to you right here. I've got. Let me see. Disconnect this guy. So I'll do bunnies surfing here. Hold on a second. So this was Wombo. This is what it looks like when it comes up. Let's see. Maybe later. Okay, so this is what we see coming up in it. And I'm going to put something in here. I'm going to put in bunny surfing. And you put it at the prompt. So this is see if you can see it. Bunny surfing, there. So I'll put that in, and then I specify my style. Vector, I'll do vector this time. So there's the style, bunny surfing, and vector. Hit create, and then it's better if you do it this way. And did you see how fast it's drawing this? And it looks like something an artist would do. And you can just imagine what this is doing to the art world. And they're going, I mean, I can do it through a different style. And I can say, create here. So here's a different style. Same prompt, bunnies on surfboards. And I'm getting people that look like bunnies on surfboards. All that stuff was drawn by the AI. It does it on the fly. It is not drawn, but you can do image searches for those things and you will not find them on the net because it's the AI that's creating them. And so people in the marketing world and advertising are going to have it a lot easier when they're working with a client on what kind of imagery they want, and they can just throw it in the prompt and say, so you want something like this, something like this. Even the client could end up doing it themselves. And if you don't believe me, that's just what that happened. I'll try something different. I'll say dogs. I had bunnies, and let's do dogs, or no, let's do something more complex. Spiders surfing. And so here's spiders surfing. There it is, spider surfing. And then create. And you see how fast it produced that? And so I guess it looks like there's spiders on the surfboards. I can tell it that I like one, and I'll finalize it. Then I'll tell it to regenerate that. And it'll do another set of 4 images. And I can change the style again. Let's go to realistic, make it look like it's real. And we don't really get spiders, do we? Yeah, we do. Spiders surfing. And then you get guys that look like Spider-Man. So it goes through all sorts of interpretations of what it is that you might want. There's the reason why it does multiple of them. And it does it so fast. And you can just imagine how you could be sitting here all day trying all sorts of things. And that's why I haven't been singing. Because I've been sitting down with this program all day long trying all sorts of stuff. And, just anything I want to, and I just put it in. And now I'm starting to think, this is going to happen to music. This is going to happen to singing. This is going to happen to all the arts. It doesn't mean that it's going to be worse. It's going to be quite the opposite. We're bored as fuck of the music now, but imagine what's going to happen once we start feeding AI all the music from the past. We're going to start being able to churn out Billy Joel style music, and then add on top of that. We'll just, we can either play with our instruments, play it, we can sing to it, we can come up with the lyrics, but it'll be, the AI is not going to come up with the lyrics. That's for sure not going to happen, because AI doesn't understand anything. It doesn't reason. What it's doing is it's drawing from a database that it's generated from taking in lots of input in some form or another, and it generates a kind of a database of understanding, and it's like you have to sit there and baby it. You have to teach it like you would anybody else. It's not going to understand things right from the get go. It's going to make a lot of mistakes, and you have to, as an AI programmer, you have to come up with a way of making use of what the AI can do. Really, how people describe it, what I've understood of it, is that every neuron inside of the neural net, it actually simulates the way the neurons work inside your head. Evidently, neurons are also in jellyfish, but what they are is they're like functions. They're like functions that you got whenever you were in algebra or calculus or whatever. Those big old quadratic functions, and you have a few little weights, that determine where the curve goes up and where it goes down. The weights are what you're programming is in those functions. That's what the AI is setting, is the weighting of all those contributing, and so the idea is that you put in some input, some simple input like an X value, over, and it tells you what the output should be, and it will do it for one or many outputs, and so one input comes in over a period of time, and then it generates it goes into a function, and the function is generated by the data that is sent in. It's like it generates a more complex function. It isn't a simple quadratic. It ends up being like a stored function, like storing data of a function. It'll be probably a mix of something that is analog and something that's stored like a in a database. And the way my brother describes it is a kind of a database search, but it's not in a database. It's a it uses parameters as input, and the output is generated from sending these parameters into this neural net, and what's produced on the output is the thing that you can use. But the thing is that programmers don't really know. Some claim they do. Some, what goes on inside of the neural nets themselves. They're like a black box. You stick stuff in, you get stuff out. You kind of understand how functionally they're supposed to work on an atomic level, but you don't know what kind of concepts they're constructing from the data that's being sent in. So what it's doing is it's constructing concepts. It probably, my imagination of what it's probably doing inside is that, or what it does functionally, is that it takes the concept, it takes what it knows of a um, of whatever it is you're asking. So it's like spiders. So it pulls up what it knows of the idea of a spider, and that idea was constructed by sending in lots of images of spiders into the system. And so if you've got a lot of images that are tagged, like from some service like uh, any of these social services where people are asked to tag their images. So you tag the image, or you get image recognition from Google, and you ask Google or you ask Yandex for a lot of pictures of spiders, and then you just send those spiders into the AI uh, for that topic. You're going to get a network of neural. You're going to get a network of these neurons that will be able to respond to producing spider images, or and what the spiders can do and what they can't do based upon what the images showed and didn't show. Okay, and so you ask it, and you say, I want spiders on surfboards, and it's going to pull up a number of different concepts of, okay, a spider on a surface. What kind of surface? A surfboard. Uh, Play spider on surface. You know, what are all these extra concepts? Is it the shape? Does it deal with the shapes? Does it deal with how does it deal with light? And so they're all just like these committees of of these little brains that are thinking about various sorts of aspects. And when you send the problem out, all the necessary brains that are needed in order to construct the image are tasked with coming up with their part, and then there are ones that make decisions about how to put that stuff together in an image. And that's how you end up with these images, is that it's just a bunch of these networks that were programmed possibly by themselves, you know, by having a neural network that was designed to make neural networks. And it's just going around and calling Yandex and a bunch of topics and trying to understand the concept of what a spider is from various levels. And when you send your text in, it's going and asking those neural networks what they know about each thing that you're talking about there, and if it can bring it together into an image. And it works really well. And now they're I mean, how hard was it going to be with music? It's going to be much harder, I think, because as I understand it, deep learning does better um, whenever the when there is less constraints. When there's more constraints, it's much more difficult for them to, because for instance, if you tell it to make a nude person, it won't know where to stick the nipples. It'll stick a nipple in a different spot, and that probably was a birthmark on some of the images it had, and so it ends up sticking the nipple in the wrong place. Um, and sometimes for you'll ask it for two people, and it'll take their faces and mix them together. So it doesn't really know. It tries to do bunch of different kinds of images, but it doesn't really know what to do with stuff. It doesn't know what is possible and what's not possible, what's real and what's not real. It can't tell the difference. and the images are going to give it a clue, but not enough of an understanding of what it's working with. And so there's always probably going to be the case that the AI art is not going to produce perfect art. It's going to require an artist to touch it up after it's been created, if it's to be used for something serious. Uh, but I imagine there are going to be a lot of people that are going to use it without an artist, and that's fine too. I think it's going to be a good thing in general for everybody because it's going to raise the level of quality of art and music and things that we're not going to be sitting around with electric guitars anymore making noise. And the whole idea behind punk was to get up on stage and play the guitar. The idea was so that people could get up on stage and sing, because there was studios that were taking Eagles and these other guys into studios and creating perfect music, and they would only accept really good musicians. Now it's going to be in the hands of the fans. It's going to be in the hands of the people that listen to the music to determine what the music's going to be. And so the skill is going to get lost. Maybe may get lost. The skill is not going to become as important as it used to be. So the skill of playing a instrument, the things that stood in the way of getting to the point of getting what you wanted are going to get dropped out, because how much of the stuff that you've heard, how much new stuff have you heard from guitarists, from keyboardists? How much stuff is really new? How much has been done before? If it's been done before, then the AI is going to be able to do it perfectly fine. If it's hasn't been done before, then the AI is not going to be able to do that. And so we come up with diversity. We come up with something that's diverse. The AI is not going to come up with diversity. We come up with diversity by mixing what the AI gives us, and being inspired by other things and possibly other AI programs, and coming up with an idea of something. So it's like you're going to be collaborating with people who are collaborating with AIs, and you get stuff done that way, rather than having to learn to play guitar in order to get the kind of guitar